Okay, so today we're going deep on something super fundamental to America, free speech. The
Absolutely.
First Amendment, the one everyone's always talking
Right.
about.
Right at the top of the Bill of Rights.
Exactly. So our mission is to figure out why it matters so much, and our sources are all saying the same thing. Free speech is like the bedrock of any real democracy, but we want to make sure we really get this.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly does the First Amendment actually protect, and why did those founding fathers make it such a big deal?
Well, the key is understanding where they were coming from. They had seen firsthand how bad things get when a government can just shut people up. I mean, their whole fight for independence was sparked because they couldn't speak their mind.
Right, they were under British rule, and
Exactly. They knew what it was like to be silenced. So they made sure that the new American government couldn't do the same thing to its people. That's why the First Amendment is all about preventing the government from censoring what we say, even if it's something they don't want to hear, even if it's unpopular or critical of the people in charge.
so it's basically a shield against the government controlling what we say.
Yeah, well, you could say that.
But where does that protection end? I mean, there have to be some limits, right?
Great, of course. And that's where the Supreme Court comes in over the years. They've had to figure out those boundaries. One really important case is Brandenburg versus Ohio. It basically said that the government can only restrict speech if it's going to directly lead to some kind of illegal action. Like someone saying something that's going to make other people immediately go out and break the law.
So you can't just shut someone down because you don't like what they're saying.
Exactly. It has to be more than just strong disagreement. It's about that line between expressing an opinion, no matter how controversial, and actually trying to incite some immediate harm.
Got it. Now, something else that comes up a lot in our sources is this marketplace of ideas concept. Can you explain what that means?
Okay, so think about it like this. When everyone has the freedom to share their thoughts and opinions, even the ones that sound crazy or offensive, it creates this open competition of ideas.
Hmm.
The best ideas, the ones that are actually true or useful, they have a chance to rise to the top because they can be debated and tested and refined. And the bad ideas, the ones that are false or harmful, well, those tend to get exposed and fade away in that same process.
So it's like a constant back and forth away for the truth to emerge.
Yeah, exactly. And a really smart guy, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, he put it this way: the best test of truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the market.
I like that. So this free exchange of ideas is how we sort things out. But our sources also talk about another really important reason why free speech is so vital. It keeps those in power accountable.
Absolutely. If journalists or activists or even just regular people can't speak their minds freely, how can they expose things like corruption or government mistakes or abuses of power?
I mean, imagine a world where the government controlled all the news outlets.
Right, they could just cover up anything they didn't want people to know about.
It's a scary thought.
Exactly. And that's why the ability to criticize those in power,
Hmm.
to question their actions, that's a cornerstone of a healthy democracy. It's what keeps power from becoming absolute.
Now, of course, our sources also acknowledge that the internet and social media have made this whole free speech thing a lot more complex.
Yeah, no doubt. The digital age has brought a whole bunch of new challenges. We're
Yeah.
dealing with these massive social media platforms and questions about what content they should allow and how to deal with things like misinformation and hate speech. And then there's the influence of these giant tech companies on what we see and hear online.
So it's like we're trying to apply these old principles to a whole new landscape.
Yeah, exactly. It's a new frontier for free speech.
But even with all these challenges, the core idea of the First Amendment as a protection, it seems like that's still holding strong.
It really has. Throughout American history, the First Amendment has been tested and challenged and reinterpreted time and time again. But its core purpose, to protect free expression, that remains absolutely vital. And I think our sources would agree that if we don't actively defend and protect free speech, we're putting our whole democracy at risk.
So after going through all this material, I think the big question we're left with is, are we doing enough to protect free speech in today's world? It feels like something we all need to think about.
And here's another thing to consider. How should we understand and apply the First Amendment in this digital age, where information spreads so quickly and these big tech platforms have so much power? How do we balance free speech with the need for responsible communication? It's a tough question with no easy answers, but it's something we all need to be thinking about.
It's definitely a lot to unpack, but that's the beauty of a deep dive, right? Well, on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those big questions. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.